Chelsea have potentially been offered a lifeline in the ability to sign Cesc Fàbregas as the next manager, and I really, really hope we do. The Enzo Fernandez rumours continue to swell, but this time not linking him to Real Madrid, but a lot closer to home with Man City. Callum McFarland takes his first press conference in charge as the Chelsea interim for the rest of the season, and I was impressed with not only his calm demeanour, which I think we needed at the moment, but also that little bit of bite back when being asked the same question over and over again. We get a few updates on players that may or may not feature in the Leeds game and the rest of the season, a little bit more behind closed doors news about what went on with Liam Rosignol in the dressing room, and some conflicting information on whether Chelsea are going to change the model or not, courtesy of Kave Solokol from Sky Sports. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And oh, mate, it just keeps rolling, doesn't it? It just keeps rolling. The end of this season is going to be wild one way or the other, man. But before we get into it, guys, if you are enjoying my content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. And after yesterday's video, we are literally 3, 4, maybe 5 subs away from 2k, guys. So if you haven't already hit that subscribe button, hit it today. Get me to that 2k goal. Let's go! Right, straight into the big news first, and personally the one that I am most excited about. Chelsea Dodgers posted this exclusive: Como would not stand in the way of Cesc Fàbregas leaving should the club's manager be lured to the Premier League by Chelsea, their president has said. Ooh, because we got one yesterday. I did it in the shortlist update. There was an update saying that Fabregas is completely committed to the Como project, and, you know, he 100% needs to say that, you know, but if there is any chance that we can get him at all, it'd be amazing. I find it interesting that the president from Como has come out saying this, rather than Fabregas is our man, he owns the club, he's got us into the Champions League, he's left the door open at the end of the day, which is the way that it needs to be. Fabregas wouldn't have been able to say anything. He can't really say anything apart from I'm committed to the project, you know, because of the fans, and essentially, he's done such amazing work over there in Como, and he is a part owner of the club as well. This is the really complicated thing, right? Because if he wasn't a part owner of the club, then maybe it'd be a little bit more cut and dry. But it's not that cut and dry, unfortunately, because he is actually invested in the club further than just in improving his managerial career, right? So, look, I find it really interesting in particular that this has come out the day after we got the noise saying that he's committed to the project. And at the same time, I completely understand if he stays. He is doing amazing work over there at the moment. First job as an interim manager, because he was the assistant, got them promoted for the first time in 20 years. Check, wicked, great job. First season in top flight football as a manager with no money, by the way, because Como are not exactly minted. He did absolutely amazing work and got them into 6th place, and right now they're getting into the Champions League. It's wild is what it is. It's absolutely wild. Cesc Fàbregas, to me, ticks so many boxes, and I think he ticks some BlueCo boxes as well. The immediate issue, right, that you know we can instantly put forward about Cesc Fàbregas, and I'd love to know what you think about him in the comments, is obviously the lack of winning credentials, right? But not as a player. Do you know what I mean? He definitely had a lot of winning credentials as a player, but as a manager, this is his first job. He's done amazingly well in this first job, and arguably he's done a much better job with Como, with very little money and not a billionaire ownership like we've got, than Liam Rosignol did at Strasbourg. Liam Rosignol wasn't getting, you know, money thrown at him at Strasbourg like Chelsea have been. But at the same time, he was always getting young, good talents, and he was being provided lots of Chelsea players going over there. So for me, Fabregas' achievements at Como outstrip anything that I think Liam Rosignol did. And to be honest, I also think it's more impressive than Maresca getting Leicester into the Premier League, which is when we hired him in the first place as well. Fabregas is stuck with this project for a little while. He's, you know, nearly at the end of his second season, so he's got nearly 2.5 seasons there at Como right now. Getting players like Nico Paz on loan from Real Madrid and using those to really augment the squad. He's obviously a good man manager as well, and I find it really interesting. I don't know if you remember, a little while ago, he actually came out and had something to say about Chelsea when Maresca was still here, when the season started getting bad. It was after the game where Rob Sanchez got sent off in the Man United game, and Maresca made loads of wild substitutes, which made it look like he basically had thrown the game at the first, because it was like in 5 minutes Sanchez got sent off, and then all of a sudden all of our attackers come off, more defenders go on, but the attacker that we left on was Cole Palmer, who was injured at the time, and that ended up exacerbating his injury. And he actually, Fabregas came out but talking about the Chelsea mentality, and you always have to try and win a game even if you're a man down. So look, I think it ticks a lot of boxes. He's a young, modern, upcoming manager. Check. from BlueCo. They'll love that. He's good at working with young players, even just looking at Nico Paz. I don't know a huge amount about the Como team, but that seems to be the biggest success story. That's a check for BlueCo. He will connect to the fans because he is a Chelsea legend. He didn't spend a huge amount of time here, but he won us titles and was just an unbelievable player. My favourite memory from Cesc Fàbregas, there's two favourite memories from Cesc Fàbregas as a player. The assist for Andre Schürrle. Do you remember that little dink for Andre Schürrle in, I think it was against Burnley, one of the opening games of that season. I think it was 2014, 2015, something like that. Absolutely stunning. But also, in his first game against Arsenal in a Chelsea shirt, sat down Mesut Ozil. It was so funny. And I get the distinct feeling from seeing Fabregas in interviews that he's not a yes man either. I think the thing is, so that might be the issue that BlueCo have. We're going to get into a little bit later about the model stuff. But if we are still looking at the model, do you know what I mean, where it's 19-year-olds all the time, I don't think he'll come for that. I think he will only come if he is guaranteed this level of experience that is being talked about in the press at the moment, and also the ability to shape the team in his image rather than just arriving in order to get the best out of the players that the board are putting in front of him. So he's got a lot of character, he's got a lot of personality, obviously a really intelligent guy, multiple languages, which is always useful. For me, he's just the guy. And look, there's going to be a lot of conversations. Like Xabi Alonso is being talked about by the fandom a lot more than he is in the news. The main links seem to be at the moment Felipe Luis and Iraola from Bournemouth. Iraola makes sense, I guess, but there's some really interesting caveats about that. I'll get into another video if we if there's any more noise about Iraola. Felipe Luis, bit more of a gamble. Cesc Fàbregas, for me, the reason it seemed like it wasn't going to happen was because of his situation, getting Como into the Champions League and also being a part owner. I thought it'd be too difficult to pry him away. But if we have we've got the literal president coming out and being like, yeah, we wouldn't stand in his way if he wanted to go, then that's a sign that maybe he's gettable, and that maybe is all I need to get excited about it. Right, so moving on from what we want to what we have and what we might lose, we're going to talk about Enzo Fernandez. PYS posted this via Fabrizio Romano. New Chelsea manager and UCL football or not could be key to see if Enzo Fernandez stays or asked to leave Chelsea. No salary agreement yet on new contract. Man City could be an option, only if they don't land their top target. So the Man City thing is kind of wild. That kicked off a little bit yesterday, and there's also been a lot of talk again rising about Maresca being linked to Man City. I think it's all a bit crazy, man, because I can see Maresca going to Man City if they get deducted loads of points, but I don't see Erling Haaland sticking around for Enzo Maresca. I don't necessarily, maybe some of the younger players and stuff that they've got, but I'm not sure Enzo Maresca galvanises Erling Haaland the way that, Pep Guardiola does, or if they were to win the league and not get the points deduction, surely either Pep stays or they go for a top quality manager because they're one of the last teams that can. But Enzo Fernandez has also been mentioned in connection. So that would, to me, be like if they're not going to get the points deduction, because they're not going to get the points deduction and either be rock bottom of the Premier League or relegated and then spend 100 mil on Enzo Fernandez, are they? So it's interesting because he's been, obviously, it sounds like Bernardo Silva is probably on his way out at the end of the season as well. So they're looking at midfield targets at the moment. Now, the big news outside of the Chelsea sphere pertaining to Man City and midfield targets is it seems pretty nailed on that they're going for Elliot Anderson from Nottingham Forest. And that makes a lot of sense. They are building a young team at the moment. He's a phenomenal player. He's just about to go to the World Cup. So his, potentially his value is about to skyrocket. But supposedly, as said in this tweet here by PYS, as per Fabrizio Romano, Enzo Fernandez is an option for Man City if they don't land their biggest target. So if Elliot Anderson proves to be too expensive or wants to go somewhere else, then Enzo Fernandez could be an option. So tell me what you think about it, guys. Do you see Enzo Fernandez at Man City? Do you think he'd be adequate replacement for Bernardo Silva? To be honest, I wouldn't expect them to play him quite as deep as we do. I actually think in Pep's system at the moment, he's kind of got the one sitting number 6 and the 2 attacking 8s, normally Ryan Cherki or Bernardo Silva. I think he fits one of those perfectly. He's not a 10. It gives him license to get forward and also create from a little bit deeper, which ultimately is his best skill set. And we don't play that way. We play with a number 10. So he's either in the number 10 or randomly under Liam Rosinier, who's drifting out wide, or he sits kind of a bit deeper, which he's not exactly ideal at, unless he's got an inverting fullback into midfield, which gets him to push on. So I do think it's an interesting thing. I'm just really not particularly fussed either way if he stays or goes. I think having a player of Enzo Fernandez's quality is always good, but I don't see him as the cog to a title-winning machine. And in terms of what it's looking like we've been trying to build, that's the thing. I'm not saying he's not a good player. Obviously he is. I just think if you look at the last few years, and how he's played for us, there's always this question about his position and where he's best, and he gets moved around all the time. So yeah, for me, I'm indifferent. I'm just indifferent about whether Enzo Fernandez leaves or stays. I don't like the fact that he came out and flirted with the Real Madrid in the obvious way that he did, and obviously to try and drop his value to make him easier to sell. But at the same time, he's been a good player. He comes up with important goals, and there's a couple of issues with the performative nature of how proper Chelsea is at the moment, isn't there? With, most recently, I mean, he's always kind of been a bang the badge kind of guy, but most recently staring at the fans in that Brighton loss with a perplexed or composed look on his face. It just seemed a little bit weird, especially you can't be like, I'm going to flirt around Madrid and then come back and be like, oh, I'm so sad that this is going on. Aren't you? Like, try and connect to the fans like that. I think it's a little bit too soon, a little bit disingenuous, a little bit performative. Don't really love that. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Right, so Callum's at the wheel. Yes. And we're going to move on to talk about some of the stuff that was said in the press conference. So obviously, Callum McFarland is being pounded with questions about Liam Rosenior, what went on behind the scenes, this, that and the other, and I like the fact that Callum's not a massive big character. He seems like a reasonably reserved guy. I've got no idea what he's like on the training pitch, of course, but when asked about the Liam Rosenior noise, he responded with this: "It is not my place to say what's gone wrong. My full focus is on Leeds. We've got a massive game on Sunday. All I'm thinking about is preparing for that game." That's a media-trained answer, and he gave a slew of media-trained answers. He didn't give anything away at all, and I respect him for that, because Liam Rosenior spoke a little bit too much. In retrospect, I think it's quite easy to say now. He tried to really eloquently dance his way around every single question that was fired at him to give loads of information and say nothing at the same time. I actually, at this moment right now, because I'm not particularly hopeful about the rest of the season, I appreciate Callum McFarland coming in and just being a bit deadpan and just giving the media-trained answers. He's not giving anything away. He is obviously just focused on the game, and I appreciate that, so that was cool. So he was also asked, not just about what went on, but also he was directly asked about were the players not playing for Rosenior. So Callum McFarland on players not playing for Rosenior versus Brighton. Who's to say? It's not anything I will comment on. And again, just there, another deadpan response or, whatever. But I like it. I like it. This isn't the time to stir the pot at the end of the day. And Callum McFarland is doing a good job on that. He was asked a couple of times by a couple of different reporters in a couple of different ways. Oh, what are you going to do now? The players aren't playing for Rosenior. He's just like, whatever, man. And I like that. We need a bit of that at the moment. So fair play to Callum for that. And Callum bites back. I love this bit. This bit was so funny. It was the only real bit of personality that he displayed in the whole thing, but I loved it. Callum McFarland gets annoyed when repeatedly asked what went wrong under Rosenior. I didn't say I don't know what the reasons are. I said I'm not discussing them today. That, I absolutely love that. That's brilliant. Like, I'm not advocating for Callum McFarland getting the job at all. I just think, as far as a caretaker goes, in terms of like press conferences and stuff, I kind of want it to be dull for a little while. I'm getting a little bit exasperated by all of the drama that's happening, right? And Callum coming in is a bit of a tonic for that. But I did appreciate this moment of character and his little bite back on that, because it shows that there is a little bit of fire under there, just a little bit. And hopefully he's using that to connect to the players to get performances out of them. So we'll just have to see what happens. So we'll move on to a couple of things about players that are available and not available. He said a couple of interesting things. So he was asked directly about Esteval, if he's going to be able to feature for the rest of the season. Esteval out for the rest of the season, confirms Callum McFarland. So it wasn't even just that. He was also asked in a follow-up question, is Esteval going to be available to play for the World Cup? And he said, I don't know. So we saw reports yesterday saying Esteval is out for the World Cup. But Callum McFarland is not backed that up, and he literally said, yeah, I don't know about that. I love that. Absolutely love that. So no Esteval for the rest of the season. I think we all kind of expected that, to be honest, anyway. But if there's a glimmer of hope that he could play at the World Cup, like I would like that for him. For him, he's going to be desperate to play that World Cup if he can. But as a selfish Chelsea fan, if that means he heals himself up while the World Cup's going on and he gets all of this time to work with the new manager, and, he gets a full pre-season and could potentially be a much bigger part of our creative force and our attacking force going into next season. Like, it's kind of a win-win for Chelsea fans, really, with Esteval. Unfortunately, if, just taking the situation as it is with him being injured, either he plays at the World Cup and we get to see Esteval at 18, 19 years old playing with the Brazil first team, wild, score magical goals, maybe lead them to a title, who knows. But at the same time, if he's not going to make it, then that benefits us as Chelsea fans for next season, doesn't it? He also was asked, but Callum McFarland was also asked about Cole Palmer and João Pedro. They both trained, so it is another late call. You would hope that João Pedro is probably a little bit closer because he was a late call for the Brighton game and obviously didn't make it, but he was already a late call for that. So potentially, just extrapolating the information that we've got, potentially João Pedro could be available for the game. Maybe Cole Palmer is a little bit less likely depending on how severe the injury was, but they are both training. They're going to make a call tomorrow about whether they're fit for the game or not. So we could see Cole Palmer and João Pedro in the game against Leeds on Sunday, which actually has taken a really interesting spin because even though that we are absolutely dire at the moment, things have been really, really, really bad, they've got 8 first-team injuries. So they're not going to be putting out their strongest possible team. I'll go through the list of the injuries tomorrow in tomorrow's video, but little bit of hope that maybe that evens out the absolute chaos that's going on at Chelsea at the moment and we might have a chance in the game. So a little bit more about Liam Rosenior, what was going on behind the scenes. PYS posted this via The Athletic. Some players were overheard complaining recently that Rosenior was not giving them enough days off. Sources had revealed that one senior player was unimpressed with what he heard and reminded them that the team was on a losing run and this was not the time to be complaining about as such. So just another behind the scenes look at what was going on, and it just looks like they, it might be one of those things they were already unhappy, and every little thing that Liam Rosenior added just was kind of magnified in terms of problems. But it's just another thing, isn't it? If they're not getting enough days off, that's going to be stressful. But at the same time, that isn't necessarily a bad thing because he wants to. He obviously was really trying to imprint his style on them. But if they were tired, lethargic, and feel like they weren't getting enough time off, that style was never going to go in. So I do still maintain that Liam Rosenior shot himself in the foot by just not playing to the strengths of the team that we've got rather than trying to implement his style. So I did think that was interesting. And we'll finish off with a little bit more about BlueCo. So all of the PR, all of the news for a little while has been BlueCo, experience, changing the model. I've had some interesting conversations recently with a couple of friends of mine. Kai from Behind the Dugouts, we did a live stream about it the other day. When I hear this thing from experience, I don't hear we're going to buy 27 to 30 year olds and we're going to add loads of title winning players into the team. Like, it's not, especially if we don't get Champions League, not necessarily possible, is it? You also have to take what Liam Rosenior said because he was the mouthpiece for BlueCo at the end of the day, and he will only have said things that they will have agreed because he was the super yes man, right? And Liam Rosenior was saying stuff about looking for emotionally stable and emotionally mature players that are able to come in and impact the team. David Ornstein came out and kind of mirrored that as well and said, we're not looking to get necessarily older players or even necessarily players that have Premier League experience. It is just about getting players that have shown that they can do it at the highest level and not lose their heads. At the time, I made the comparison of, if you look at the players we've been linked with, it's people like Jan-Paul van Hecke and Murillo. I think although they have Premier League experience, but ultimately they're not old players by any stretch. I think Jan-Paul van Hecke is 25, Murillo 24, 25, something like that. They've got years in the Premier League. Jan-Paul van Hecke, for instance, is really interesting. Obviously, absolutely smashing it this season. He's genuinely having one of the outside of the top 6, he's having the best performance of any defender in the Premier League. And he's got 8 yellow cards this season, but no reds, which is any player of ours that has got that many yellow cards this season has also got reds. So that backs up the emotionally stable thing, right? So in my eyes already, when I hear them saying experience, I'm already not expecting it to be 28-year-olds, 29-year-olds that have been winning Premier Leagues or winning in France or in Spain or whatever. It's so difficult to get those players, even when you've got Champions League football, let alone when you haven't. But for me, that just kind of says, okay, it's more Marc Cucurella's and João Pedro's and less Jamie Gittins, Alejandro Garnacho kind of thing. The other thing about it is I also didn't expect them to completely halt the brakes on the model. I think the model will be tweaked. I don't think we're going to overhaul the model this year. I still think they're going to look for young players and they want to bring in young players that can develop and make money. I don't think that's going to change. Even if we sack the sporting directors, if we got new sporting directors in, I don't expect that to change either. But I do expect the system to be tweaked, essentially. So I'm not surprised to hear this, but, a lot of people are hearing experienced players change the model and thinking it means absolutes. I don't think it means absolutes. I never thought it meant absolutes. We don't need to, we don't need to completely overhaul the model. We need to add more experienced players. That's absolutely true. But they still need to make money at the end of the day, don't they? So they are pretty committed to this model as it is, but I do expect to see less of it. So we'll get into the tweet. So Kaveh Solokol from Sky said this, posted via PYS on Twitter. X. Sorry, I keep saying Twitter, don't I? People in charge of running Chelsea absolutely believe in what they are doing and ultimately are not going to change the strategy. There may be some tweaks along the way, but ultimately they believe what they are doing will get Chelsea where they need to be. So there it is, plain and simple. Carve is probably one of the guys that gets fed information directly from the club as well. I guess this is probably some kind of thing to like balance out what fans are hearing versus what they're thinking in their heads. I never thought they were just going to completely rip it up, but we've bought, like for instance, we've bought 60 players in the last 4 seasons. Absolutely wild. I expect there to be slightly less player trading and the focus to be slightly more geared towards getting players to go into the first team. That is what I expect to see, and that doesn't mean that I don't think we're all still already. But we bought a 16-year-old like a couple of months ago or whatever. It's still happening. We're still buying young players. That is still going to happen. I 100% believe that. But I do believe we're going to see a lot of players out, especially in the defence. And I do think that we are going to start targeting some more experienced players. But what experience means to you, I guess, is different for everyone, isn't it? Experience to me just kind of means someone that has got experience playing at a top level, whether it be Premier League, whether it be, you can get an experienced player from Portugal, for instance, so we're linked with, what's the guy called? Maxi Araujo, 26 years old. He's not a world beater, do you know what I mean? But he is a good player that has been playing for a while, and he does have experience at playing at a high level in the Champions League. So, there's different versions of experience, isn't there? So this is just basically me saying to Chelsea fans, I don't think the model's going to change completely, but I do think it will be tweaked, and I think that's probably the best we can expect. But if you think about the good players we've got in the squad, if we get the right manager in, vis-a-vis Cesc Fàbregas, and he can knit the good players we've got together, get the best out of Cole Palmer, get the best out of Esteval, João Pedro, Moises Caicedo, Marco Correa, Reece James, then all of a sudden, we've only got a few places in the squad that desperately need surgery. Levi Colwill's coming back. If we get Jan-Paul van der Hek, I'd be really happy with that. The goalkeeper situation, I'm still a little bit worried about. Mike Pender's probably going to come in and fight for the first team spot, but we're not being linked with goalkeepers, and it's not something that's being talked about. We desperately need a left winger. We've got Omega coming in who looks like a really, really talented young lad, and he's in his 20s, so he's not 19. We've got Giovanni Quenda, who looks like a very slightly different type of player to Esteval, but similar profile, similar age. There's a lot to be excited about with the squad that we have and the guys we've already got coming in. And like I say, for me, it really feels like we only need surgery on a few positions and the right manager to bring them together. And fortunately, because Liam Rosenior's gone and we're just before the summer, we might be able to see all of that about to happen really soon. So one more thing from behind the scenes. So it's not pertaining to Liam Rosenior and what was going on. It's pertaining to the owners, right? So PYS posted this just in from the Telegraph. A source on the reactions to attempts from the owners doing Abramovich-style dressing downs. Some of them would just laugh, maybe not in front of them, but they heard and seen it all about supporting managers and doing this and doing that. It's got to the stage where some of them would just laugh. So this, for me, if we are to believe at all that the ownership are going on this moment of self-reflection that they've stated, do you know what I mean, when they sack Rosenior, this is one of the biggest parts that they need to do, man. It's all fine and good talking about the model. It's all fine and good talking about the players that are going to come in. But they need to be less involved in the playing stuff, right? So I talked to Mo from the Blue Lounge about this quite a lot. Supposedly they've got an office next to the dressing room at Stamford Bridge, and they have little meetings in there while the players in it. Like, keep it separate. The good thing about Roman Abramovich, and look, there was bad about Roman Abramovich. Roman Abramovich was a unicorn in terms of what he did for us, but it wasn't all brilliant and great. Do you know what I mean? There was a lot of issues there. But at the same time, one of the best things about Roman Abramovich is he was so detached from the day-to-day that when he said something or when he got involved, it was big. Do you know what I mean? It was like, oh mate, Romans come in. So the problem that the sporting owner, the owners of the club have got at the moment is they're too involved and they're lessening their own impact. And also, they're not scary. Roman Abramovich is a scary dude, man. He's a scary dude. These guys are not scary dudes. And this, to me, comes hand in hand with what they need to do is they need to back the manager. And back the manager doesn't just mean transfers. It means managing the squad, handling the staff, the coaching staff. Leave that to him. You have to put that trust into him. So that's a difficult thing because we've been going for young managers and kind of being like, well, it's fine because if they're young, they can just focus on coaching the team and we can handle all this other stuff. You need someone who it's not necessarily managing everything, but it is the team needs to be left, the team that is there, needs to be left to the manager. And yes, okay, transfers, sporting directors, okay, that's going to happen. Business decisions, merch, selling assets to yourself, that's all their wheelhouse. That's all their wheelhouse. There is not any respect for the owners from the players at the moment, and that seems to be causing a bit of a divide. Obviously, Marco Correa came out and spoke about it. Enzo Fernandez is obviously not happy. So if these players go or get replaced or whatever, an immediate change we need to see is, well, not we need to see because we don't see it, but what they need to see is less of Todd Boehly, less of Badad Igbali. To be fair, Todd Boehly's kind of gone off the boil anyway because he was really, really the face of it for the first year, wasn't he? But I feel like we're seeing a lot of Igbali, and obviously him and the sporting directors are trying to dress down the team when things aren't going well, and you're actually taking power away from the manager when you do that at the same time. So look, this is what it needs to be for me. Like, as much as the period of self-reflection needs to be about transfers, it needs to be about the model, whatever, as much as that, it needs to be about them taking a step back from the day-to-day running of the squad and leave that to the manager and give the manager more authority in that respect and let him make decisions. And you know, if there's a dressing down to be done, let the manager do it. So, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Bit of a crazy news video today, but they're all crazy at the moment. It's Chelsea. It's been an absolutely wild season, but ultimately, for the first time in a little while, I'm looking forward to the Leeds game, right? Leeds have made us look silly a couple of times this season, so this is our chance for a revenge. Callum McFarland didn't exactly, you know, he got a draw against Man City, which was great, but he did lose to Fulham. Whether he's a tactical wizard or whatever, I don't know, but he is just hopefully taken some of the pressure and some of the heavy weight off of the players about everything that's been going on. Hopefully they feel a bit freer, a bit lighter, and if you give some freedom to express themselves and have fun playing football, because that's when everyone's at their best, right? Then hopefully we can get a result out of it. Nice one, guys. Thank you very much for sticking around until the end of the video. If you did, I will catch up with you all very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.